Well, hello and welcome. This is episode 6 of On Cloud 9.
And we're talking about marriage hacks today.
Marriage hacks today. I'm Chris,
I'm Carolyn.
and you're listening to On Cloud 9. It was a little repetitive. We kind of switched up the intro there.
We did.
That's okay.
On the fly.
Everyone will get over it. Did you hear
I
that?
think that was one of the dogs.
We just had a random screeching noise in here, so we're off to a hot start here.
Yes,
on
very
episode
much so.
6.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, today we're talking about marriage hacks. Our favorite marriage hacks.
Yes.
We're not your favorite marriage hacks because we're not hacks.
Oh my gosh.
We are good people.
Oh my word.
Oh, man. So we've got just a few, I guess, like tips,
Mm-hmm.
tricks, fun things that we like to do that have been our favorite things along the way.
Yes,
And today is a special day for us.
it is.
Why?
Because, well, you'll be hearing this in a few days, but today is September 10th, and a year ago today, we got engaged at Wrigley Field in front of the marquee. But yeah, it's been a year. It's been
It's been all uphill from there.
wild. It's been fun, but I just can't believe it's already been a year.
Yeah, me neither. It's flown by.
Yeah.
You know when people say it's all downhill from here
Mm-hmm.
and it's supposed to be like a bad thing? But that doesn't make sense. It should be the opposite. Because
So-
if it's all downhill, you're coasting.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
So when everyone's like, oh, you got married, it's all downhill from here,
Yeah.
like in a bad way, they really should say it's all uphill. Like you're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah.
I think that saying is wrong.
I agree.
I don't know why that just popped in my head.
I don't like the negative connotation to it either. Because I feel the same way as you. If you're going downhill, like you're not doing any of the work. Like you're just rolling with it.
Yeah.
Truthfully. But yeah.
Anyways, today, marriage hacks, we've got 7 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
You can start.
I'll start because number 1 is my favorite one by a country mile. And it's actually probably more beneficial for you than it is for me.
Yes, 100%.
It's my favorite one by proxy because you are happier. Anyways, number 1 is have 2 comforters or 2 main blankets on the bed, one for each of you.
Yes.
And this is because I'm a bit of a blanket hog.
Yes.
And
You are.
so it just makes it so you can still sleep. Although you sleep so hot that you hardly use the blankets anyways.
Yeah, I normally
So
have one
really
leg
when I
out.
steal the blankets from you, I'm doing you a favor.
No. Because I do get cold in the middle of the night. Truthfully. But yeah, it's like there's a hurricane going on in our room at night with you and how you sleep because you roll over, and when you take the blankets with you, you do it so aggressively in your sleep that it's like 1 second I'm completely covered by a blanket, and the next second it is like no blankets at all, and I'm really cold. And yeah, so it's I think it's saved the first several months of our marriage.
Well,
Made it a
don't-
lot easier.
It's really not fair to me. Like, I know you get upset and totally understandably if I steal your blankets in
Yeah.
the middle of the night because you don't sleep well and then all of a sudden you got blankets ripped off of you. So I totally understand. But it's also not something that I consciously do.
Right.
So, like, you can't be that mad at me
No.
for it because I don't know that I'm even doing it.
Right.
I'm sleeping.
Yeah, and I've never gotten like actually mad at you. There's been a couple of times where I just truly slept so bad because I kept waking up when the blankets would get ripped off. But yeah, I don't get mad at you. It just is irritating sometimes.
No, I totally understand.
But now it's completely avoided, so
Yeah.
it works. I am basically a human furnace. I get so hot all the time that the lightest blanket possible that I can sleep with is the best option for me. And he is always cold and he wants a thicker comforter. And I don't want that because I don't want to be sweating my face off the entire night. So 2 comforters has worked out perfectly. I get the thin blanket and he gets the thicker, heavier, hotter comforter.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you sleep hot. It's so damn cold in this house at night, which is great. I love sleeping in the cold.
I woke up in the middle of the night and I was sweating.
Well, sounds like a personal problem.
Yeah, it probably is. Probably is, but
And trust me, as somebody who is like a cuddler, I like to be like under the same blanket and cuddling. And so we'll like cuddle before bed.
Yeah.
But when you sleep, that's such a like new relationship thing, cuddling like all night long. It's so unrealistic. No one
100%.
sleeps well like that.
No.
With hair in your face, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't want you snoring in my ear.
No.
Yeah.
And I love a good cuddle, but I mean, yeah, all night's
No.
absurd.
That, and then once somebody's got their arm completely asleep the entire
yeah.
night, that's not comfortable. It's just not realistic.
It's hot and sweaty. Nobody's sleeping well.
I'm hot enough on my own sleeping
Yeah,
that
you
I
are.
don't need I don't need somebody else. I don't need somebody else's body heat attached to mine in the middle of the night. Just leave me be and let me sleep in peace. And I will cuddle with you before we sleep. And yeah,
That's fair.
yeah.
All right. What's your number one?
My number
Or
one.
number two overall?
Yeah.
Your number one.
I think it would probably be saying thank you for the big things, especially, but also for the little things, more importantly. There's a lot of times where we'll go out to dinner and our finances are combined 100%. We have our own spending money for each month that we get to individually just blow on whatever we want to. Like if I want to go get my nails done, if Chris wants to go golfing, whatever it is. But everything else is 100% combined. We don't have separate bank accounts for each other. And so a lot of times, like we'll go out to dinner and I'll say, thank you. I'm like, thank you for dinner. Like, thanks for taking me out. And Chris will answer, well, you paid for it too, which is true. I mean, technically it is also my money, but I think it's been ingrained in me since I was younger. Like if somebody takes you out to dinner, or somebody does something for you, you say thank you and you show your appreciation that way. And I think that's what it really comes down to, is me just appreciating the effort of you going out to dinner with me or going to lunch with me or whatever it is. Truthfully, I think a lot of times it ends up being like if we go out for dinner, but
Yeah, you're very good about always saying thank you for things, which I think is easy to get lost after you get married, because you're just like with that person all the time. So
Right.
it seems like you're such a team and you're doing everything together that it can seem like you're just an extension of me. So I don't need to thank you for every little thing. But yeah, meals is a good one. Like I try and do it. You pick up drinks once in a while. Like you'll stop at Sonic on the way home from work and pick up drinks or something like that. So, and it's, I guess, not necessarily thanking you for spending the money. It's being thoughtful enough to like ask me if I wanted something and then taking the time out of your day to actually go do it.
Right.
So yeah, I think saying thank you is one of those little things that just compounds. Yeah, compounds. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, it's just probably more than it being a positive thing to say thank you. I think the negative side is much worse than the positive side is. Positive. Great. You know
I get
mean?
what you're saying. Yeah. You end up, if you're the one that's constantly going out of your way to do something and making that little bit of effort, I wouldn't necessarily say going out of your way, because a lot of that is just natural, where like if I want something to drink after work, I'm like, hey, I'm going to Sonic. Would you like anything? Or sometimes I don't ask and I just get you something. But that's just the thoughtfulness behind it, where I do appreciate when you say thank you for that effort. So I could absolutely see if you're doing stuff like that all the time and it's like, oh, okay. Like that's the response you get.
Right.
It's like, you're going to feel so unappreciated.
I think just not saying thank you can just like compound and compound. And if that person's, if you're getting me whatever, a Sonic drink every day and you just drop it on the counter and I never like thank you or be appreciative of it, it's going to affect you.
Yeah. And the effort's going to stop at some point.
Right.
Because you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, well, I keep trying to make these little efforts to do something and it's not appreciated or it's not expressed. So why would I even continue to try?
Right.
So yeah, I think it's very important to show your appreciation. And you don't have to go out of your way and start jumping up and down and say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for like, you don't have to be dramatic about it.
Right.
It's just a simple thank you. Like I appreciate you doing that for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
My number 3 overall,
Mm-hmm.
with the second pick in the NFL draft. Oh, football starts today. I'm so hyped. Let's go. The Broncos are not going anywhere. So
Yeah.
I'm really just excited to listen to Chris Hansen for 7 hours a day on Sundays. My number 2 is going on walks together. I love a good walk. And it doesn't even have to be that long, like 20, 30 minutes.
Mhm.
I like doing it after dinner.
Yeah. I think I've missed the most during the summer with how hot it's been. That it's just, even taking a walk for 15 minutes is just miserable. Like, you're not enjoying it. So I'm very excited now that it's starting to cool off that we can go back out there and do that.
Definitely. I mean, it's just something where, one, it's good exercise. And especially if you're at a desk job like me all day and you're sitting down and not getting much movement, going on a walk and just getting even 20 minutes a day of movement is extremely healthy,
Mm-hmm.
just to get your body in motion. So you're not just a vegetable all day.
Right.
So, one, it's healthy and it's exercise. And 2, it gives you a chance to like decompress on the day. I like to talk about like our goals on walks. I think we do that a lot, is just talk about, what we envision. It gives us a time to just, it's almost like a metaphor. You're going on a walk and you also get a time to envision yourself walking toward your goals.
Mm-hmm.
And you're literally like doing it together, like walking down the path together. So as much as you're literally walking down the path, you're also doing it metaphorically.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
I learned that several years ago. I heard in church, and our pastor was talking about taking walks with his wife, and that's their time to really dream together. It's uninterrupted time where they get to focus on each other in the conversation with each other, and they don't have to worry about their kids' schedules and things. Like, it's their uninterrupted time. And he was like, you're walking, like you said with the metaphor, you're walking side by side together. You're not sitting at a table across from each other and one person speaking to the other. You are hand in hand doing that together. You're making the decisions together as a team, but it's also a safe place for you to have hard conversations if you need to where you're side by side and you're not like this, sitting across the table from each other, just staring at each other, or emotions are getting high. Like, you can move forward as you're speaking about something that might be a little bit more difficult, but you're also next to your spouse. And so it's a little bit more of a relaxed way to bring up bigger topics to where you can let the other person talk and you can just keep walking and like allow yourself to process what they're saying.
Yeah.
So I think, I enjoy our walks together a lot, and I'm so happy that the weather's cooling down so we can start doing that again.
Agreed. Yeah. It's also nice to be able to have those hard conversations outside of the house.
Yeah.
So that way you go out and if you have a difficult conversation you need to have, you can have it. And then you don't come home and like if it's a big fight or something, it doesn't like taint that room in the house where you had a big blow up and now that room just has a bad vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
You got that out, not in your home. And then when you come home, it's your dwelling place and your place of rest.
Yeah.
So you don't have just that tension in the room.
I like that.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about it like that before.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So my number 2, I guess overall, is what? Number 4?
4. Yeah.
Is
Math's
always
getting hard here.
Yeah, I know. There's a list. Is to always kiss each other hello and goodbye when you are coming and going in the house, going to work, whatever it is. That is something that's big for me, and it's something that has caused a few bits of tension with us a couple times, just because we've been in passing or with, our shared dwelling space where one of us comes in and we've got our hands full of a bunch of stuff and we just want to go put it down, and we're like hi bye in passing. But it's important for me, your spouse is the one person, removing kids from the picture, dogs, whatever it is, your spouse is the one person that you are choosing every single day to do life with. It's not, when you have kids, that's your responsibility. You don't have a choice on whether or not these kids are going to be with you until the day that you die. Your spouse is the one person that you are choosing every single day to love, no matter what, because they are not your blood. And so that's a little bit of an effort to say hello. Like, I'm saying hi to you. I'm giving you a kiss, because you can walk out the door and there's no guarantee that you're going to get to do that again.
Right.
On either side. So I think it's just important to really take that 10 seconds of effort to say hi, give each other a hug, just recognize each other, because your schedules get so chaotic and so busy sometimes that you don't want to forget about each other. I
Sure.
think that's my biggest thing, is just recognizing like, oh, I'm happy to see you. Hi.
Yeah.
Or I'm leaving for the day, going to work. Kiss you and see you later.
Yeah. I saw this post about saying goodbye to your spouse when they leave for the day. And it said, always take 10 seconds to hug and kiss your spouse goodbye when they leave for the day. One, because like you said, there's no guarantee that they come back through that door.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always like a sad thing to think about.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's reality. It happens all the time. People walk out their front door everyone, you walk out your front door for the last time and you never come back.
Mhm.
It happens at some point for everybody. But the post was about taking that 10 seconds, no matter if you're, tired or you're feeling lazy or you're late for work. It said, if you're late for work, 10 seconds isn't going to matter. If you're 10 more seconds late for work, it's not going to be the difference in you losing your job or not. And if it is, you should have been more responsible heading into that. But 10 seconds isn't going to make you late, and 10 seconds isn't going to make you on time. But 10 seconds will strengthen your relationship in making that intentional effort to tell your spouse that you love them and tell them goodbye.
Yeah. That's
so I
solid.
thought that was good.
Absolutely. I agree. All right. So what's your next one?
Number 5, my number 3. Golly, this is getting out of hand.
We made this way too
We
complicated.
just need to go with the overall numbers here.
Just the next one.
So number 5 is, we've talked about this multiple times on many episodes. We're on number 6. I'm like, many episodes ago.
Yeah.
Anyways, is tackling your problems as a team. So it's always us versus a problem, not me versus you, no matter what it is. So like whether it's debt or where you're going to move, or, something's going on with the dogs medically and we need to decide, are we going to put it down, or are we going to pay for a bunch of money for the surgery, which we had to decide.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always us versus that problem. It's never like me attacking you or judging you or anything like that. It's always a team effort. And again, this goes hand in hand with like walking through life together, is you're tackling those things as a team and being, connected instead of separated through like hard times, the storms in life. Church today was all about the storms of life, and having a partner to walk through those storms with is beneficial.
Absolutely. And that's not to say that thankfully, we have not had too many things come up to where it was heated and we really were just one versus the other in the heat of the moment with, a big topic. But it's hard when you're in a heated discussion or you're fighting with one another and you're just truly in the heat of the moment. It is hard to stop and remind yourself or remind each other it's not us versus each other. Mm-hmm. And so I think it teaches you a little bit of a different way to argue or to face your problems. I think it teaches you to slow down a little bit when you force yourself every single time to remind, like, it is not us versus each other. That's exactly what the enemy wants. It is us versus the problem. We are not here to separate each other and put our problems in the middle. It is us on one side and our problem on the other, and we're going to tackle it together. And, but it, nobody's perfect in that, but I think it forces you to take a different approach to your arguments and your problems when you're viewing it as it's team. It's not one versus one.
Yeah.
So.
It's definitely not easy, especially when you disagree
Mhm.
on something, and in your eye you just see them. You're like, why are you thinking of it this
Yes.
way? Like you're wrong.
Yeah.
I know you're wrong, but you just have to realize and come at it from a different perspective. I think that book that you read, I'm just starting, is Don't Give the Enemy a Seat at Your Table, is really good about that.
Yeah.
And like just understanding that the problem is the enemy, not you.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. That's good.
So yeah, number 5.
5, I think. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, guys. We're like out of it today.
That's okay. And we just made the list a little too complicated, I think. But
yeah.
anyway.
So number 5 is just tackle your problems together.
Yes. Team everything. Yes.
Agreed.
And then the last one that I thought of, but there's a couple more, but the last one that I thought of for sure was solo time versus time together. It is not uncommon for you to get into a relationship and that person be all you ever think about, all you ever want to spend time with, things like that. But as much as you love that person and as much as I love you as my husband, I am still my own whole and complete person by myself. You are here to compliment me, and that's not compliment with an I, compliment with an E. Like we compliment each other.
Right.
But I still have my own individual needs and desires and dreams and hobbies that I want to take into consideration in our daily life. And so as much as I so enjoy going grocery shopping together and running errands together because it's quality time with you, there still needs to be that individual time where I go get my nails done by myself, or I'm going to go outside and take a walk on my own for 15 minutes, or I'm going to go get coffee, something. You need to be able to have that time by yourself. You cannot make your spouse 100% your identity. You have to have your own identity. And I think it's so healthy to spend so much time together, but you also need your individual time to recharge. You need to have your own quiet time. And so that's just a marriage hack for us. I think, there's been times where you've gone out to the driving range by yourself, or you'll go out in the garage and work on your car, or I'll go out and get coffee or go get my nails done. It's like that 45 minutes to yourself is just time for you to not have to think about somebody else. So you're like, I'm taking care of myself so then I can be a better version of myself for you. So yeah, I think it's just important. I think if you are in a relationship where you're constantly doing everything together and that's all you're thinking about and you're not taking just even 30 minutes to yourself, it can get pretty unhealthy because that person ends up becoming your identity.
Right.
And that's not how it should be.
Right. Yeah. And it's, a couple things. One, making that person your identity, or you see this in, I think, early on in relationships where someone is like way more in love than the other person, and they make that person like their God. Like they want to be with that person all the time. And if they're not, they're like falling apart at the seams. And it just comes, like you said, from making that person your identity. And your whole life is about being in that relationship, which isn't healthy. I love spending time with you, and we spend a lot of time together. We really do almost everything together. But it is important to have that time away from your spouse too. You can't do everything together. You weren't made to. And like you've said before on here, I am not created to fulfill all of your desires. I can't, because that's not what I'm made to do. I can fulfill some of them. I can fulfill a lot of them, but not all of them. And that's what you need the church for, what you need to lean on God for, and why you have a group of friends around you, girlfriends that you can hang out with to just fill your cup in other ways that your spouse can't, because they're not made to.
Absolutely. And I know right now we don't have kids that we're juggling around in the mix of our daily schedules, but I would really encourage, if you are listening to this and you're married and you have kids and your wife is just busting at the seams with being overstimulated and overwhelmed with juggling the kids, if she's a stay-at-home mom, I would really encourage you as a husband, go send her out to go get her nails done. Go send her out by herself to go get Chick-fil-A and sit in the car if she wants to. Give her an hour or give her 2 hours to just go unwind and be on her own. If she doesn't get that, it is so incredibly important from a woman's perspective. You are constantly thinking about other people all the time. It's not just you that is on your mind. Even in just for me as a wife, like I'm constantly thinking of you. I'm thinking of the dogs. I'm thinking of work. Everybody that I'm responsible for there. So it's never just me that I have in my brain of like, okay, I want to go do this. So this is what we're going to do. And I'm not going to think about anything else while I'm doing it. So I would just really encourage, if you have a wife who's juggling babies and work schedules and school schedules and sports schedules and all the things, just send her out for 30 minutes for a cup of coffee if she doesn't get that. And it will transform her day. She will be able to become a little bit more of a refreshed version of herself just in that time, because she didn't have to worry about anybody else but herself in that moment. It is very important. And I think that's when you see a lot of moms and wives that are just so burnt out because they're constantly focusing on everybody but themselves, that when it comes time to the end of their day and they could get 30 minutes by themselves, they're so tired they don't want to. Like they just want to go to sleep, or they've got a list of chores that they need to focus on. So long-winded explanation, but just give them that 30 minutes or an hour or even longer than that. Send them out on a day by themselves, and they will be a much more refreshed version of themselves. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think it's just to add on to that, and we're not in this situation, so I can't speak to it that deeply, but I think it's very easy for men, especially, and men who have stay-at-home wives that stay at home with the kids. And if you're in that position, awesome. I hope that we're in that position one day, because having a woman stay home with the kids, I think, is so beneficial for kids and their upbringing and their success later in life for many reasons. But I think it's very easy from a man's perspective to, instead of sending their wife out on the weekend to get their nails done or something like that, is to be like, they just have this thought in their head of, I work all day and all you do is stay at home. And it's such a toxic, I hate using that word, but it's such a toxic way to think about it. Because if your wife is staying at home with the kids, that's a full-time job. And I think it's easy to forget that if you're working and not doing any of the household chores anymore. And like I said, I kind of hope that we're at that point one day where, you can stay at home and do the household things, the typical womanly roles of the house. But I think it's easy, if you're a man and you're working all day and you're not doing those things day to day, to forget how draining they are. Laundry sucks. Doing the dishes sucks. And when you have kids, your laundry, if you have 2 kids, your laundry's doubled from when you first got married immediately. And I hate doing laundry for one person enough. So doing it for 4 would be exhausting. But you have all these chores, cleaning the house and dusting and cooking, and all of these things are a full-time job. And a woman, or whoever's staying, if it's a stay-at-home guy too, whatever, needs a time to disconnect as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if they're not going out and working a 9 to 5, it's still a full-time job in itself, and it needs time. You need time away from it.
You see that typical, stereotypical situation a lot of times where the mom is a stay-at-home mom and she's home all day long, especially with young babies that are not in school yet. And then the husband on Saturday is like, all right, I'm going to go golfing. And then it's like the same thing over and over again. The wife's like, where's my break? Like, I need to tap out for a second. Like, I need you to tap in, kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's very important. And as much as it's always been my dream to be a wife and a mom. So I'm already living half of my dream right now, just being a wife. But thinking about in a few years, if we are in a situation where I'm able to stay home and raise our babies, like, I would love to do that. Like, I think it would be so much fun to be home full time with them in those first few years of life before they go to school, to have their undivided attention and to help like watch them grow on a daily basis and things. And I mean, it still blows my mind watching our nephew and how much he changes week by week right now, just with him being so little. But it is a dream, but it's still very much a full-time job. Like you said, and that's not to say that, wives are staying at home and then, the husbands are just automatically off the hook for any household chores or help. It's still very much a team setting. But if you are staying home during the day, you're taking on more of that responsibility on the day-to-day than you would be before if you were both at work at the same time.
Yeah.
So, I think it's so important. And I like that you brought up again that you were not created and you can't fill all of my desires, just like I can't do that for you. Yeah. Jesus is the only one that can. And we're still very much holding on to that truth because it is the only truth for us. So I think it's very important.
Yeah. And I don't want to harp on this for too long, number 6, but on the reverse side of that for women too, if you're in that role and you're staying at home and you need a break, one, like communicate that. Mm-hmm. Let your husband know that you need a break, you're struggling, and you just need some time. Because oftentimes they don't know. They can't read your mind. Mm. It's not their job to read your mind. It's your job to communicate what you need. So if they're not giving you that, let them know you need it. And 2, also understand that as much as drained as you are, that your husband could be just as drained from working all day.
Absolutely.
So again, it's not you versus them. It's you versus this problem. We're both exhausted. We have a kid. How are we going to solve this problem? Like, we're both tired. We're drained. I had a long day. I worked 12 hours. You did 12 loads of laundry and cooked dinner. And now the kid still needs to eat and the kid needs a bath and they have to do their homework and then get him in bed. Okay, well, it's both of our responsibilities to tackle this. Mm-hmm. So let's figure out where we can both work through this together.
Absolutely. And this is really the last thing I'll add to this topic. I've seen, I don't want to call it a trend, but there's been a lot of recurring posts on Instagram from reels and things of stay-at-home moms essentially, or working moms that are posting, and they have in their family and in their marriage what's called their golden hour. So it's that time after dinner to where it is a perfect chance for husbands. If you are gone all day and you're working, every day they switch off. So every other day, you are responsible in that golden hour for getting the dishes done, cleaning up after dinner, and you get to choose. So a lot of times they'll just switch off. So we're like, say, Monday, Wednesday, Friday of that week, it's the husband's job. And after dinner, he's taking care of the dishes. If the laundry needs to be switched over, he's switching it over. And on the flip side of that, while he's doing that, the wife is getting the kids ready for bed, getting them bathed if they need to, or going outside and spending some time with them. Or they get in that hour, they set a timer, those kids are getting that parent's undivided attention for an hour. Phones are not involved. Mm-hmm. Nothing is going on. And every day they switch. So the responsibility is not just on one spouse every single day, all day long. So I thought that was great. And I was like, that's a really good idea. And granted, there might be some days where it's like, you know what? We'll do the dishes tomorrow. Just leave them. Let's both sit down and spend this next hour with the kids, undivided attention, or as a family unit. And I think that's such a good idea because it breaks up the responsibility of like a stay-at-home mom who's had toddlers running around and the house is just a train wreck. And that time is like, okay, the kids are already either asleep and we're going to spend this golden hour together. But it also gives you a chance too, once the kids do go down for bed, all the household chores are done. You don't have to worry about it. So now it's time for the two of you to spend uninterrupted until you go to sleep for that night. And if that's only an hour, then it's only an hour. If it's the next 3 hours.
It doesn't usually take an hour, a couple minutes.
Oh my God, Christopher Clow.
What?
I knew I was probably setting myself up for something
You
like that.
walked
Oh
right
my
into it.
gosh. Anyway, that was just an idea that I had seen. And I honestly don't know why I haven't brought it up to you before. Granted, probably because we don't have kids, but I thought it was a great idea. And I think it's something that would be fun to adapt once we've got some Rugrats running around. So
Yeah, I agree. I've seen that too. I think it's a really good idea.
I like that.
All right, moving on.
Last one.
Number 7. This one will be quick because I think a lot of it relates to our last episode about cooking and sharing meals together. And it's just planned date nights. So we do every other week. You plan a date night, and then I plan a date night. So twice a month, we have at least 2.
Yeah.
We have at least twice a month, we have a designated date night. And it's Wednesday nights. It's not like we're going out on Friday. It's not expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Our last date night, we did a puzzle.
Yeah.
And so it was like $11 for date night.
We,
Cheap, easy, and it lasted like 3 days. It was like a 3-day date night.
Yeah.
So I would just encourage you to, it's just one of those things, you hear it all the time. Keep dating your spouse because they need to feel pursued and desired even after you get married.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's been a very sweet time as well. I mean, when we first got married, we're like, every Wednesday is date night. And then we kind of fell into this routine of like, okay, it's date night. We would call it date night, but then we wouldn't do anything really different to like, or anything to differentiate date night versus.
Yeah, it was just the same
It was just
thing.
the same thing. And so then I was like, we have our monthly finance meetings, but we also do a monthly check-in at the first day of every month of like, okay, what did we do in our marriage this past month that maybe we need to talk about, or do we have any other ideas? And so I just brought it up. I'm like, what if we do it to where Wednesday nights are still our night? If we, on the off chance that on the off week that one of us isn't planning a date night, if we need to sit down and be like, okay, we need to go take a night, like close the door, we need to talk about some stuff, or we just need to spend time together. Like, let's watch a movie. If there's something going on where we really need that time, Wednesday night is our night to do it, aside from the weekends. But twice a week, or twice a month, I'm like, let's one person each take it, so then we can do something different. And one night we went out to dinner and went to had pizza and ice cream, and other nights we painted, and I made you paint, and we did the puzzle. So it's things like that where there's still an effort, and you're not falling into this mundane. It's no
different than
any other night. And you're just calling it, you're slapping a stamp on it and calling it date night.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've really enjoyed, doing date night every week. That was something when we went through premarital counseling that was honed upon, was making sure you date your spouse constantly. Mm-hmm. So we were like, oh, once a week we can do that. But it was almost too often because it just became like it was just, oh, we're cooking a meal at home, but we cook a meal at home every night. So it wasn't anything special, like you said.
Yeah.
So I've really enjoyed spreading them out a little bit and making them more intentional.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, who knows? We might come through another season of life where we're like, we need a weekly date night. Like, we're going out for like, that's our one night where we don't cook dinner and we're going out to dinner just so we can get out of our normal routine. So, but seasonally right now, it's been sweet. I think it's something to look forward to more than we already do, because it's not happening every other day or every week. And I really like it.
Right. So that's it. Do you have anything to add?
I don't think so.
To our 7 marriage hack /tips.
I don't think so.
All right. I have one thing to add.
Okay.
I feel like I always have something to add. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm actually not sorry for bringing you this wealth of knowledge in my brain.
Okay. Let's hear it.
You mentioned it, is our monthly meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So we have on the first of the month, typically somewhere around the first of the month, we have a budget meeting. And number 2, we have I call it a relationship check-in. And it's just a time where if you have something on your mind, you should speak it. And it's like a no judgment, like, I'm not going to be offended by what you say. I know what you're saying is coming from a place of love. I want to know if our relationship is going sideways and I don't know about it. I want you to tell me. Mm-hmm. If you see something in me, or I see something in you, or you see something in our relationship that's going awry and you're not saying something, that's the time to say it and have the other person be accepting to whatever you say. Mm-hmm. Because if you see something going sideways and you wait a year to say something, by that time it's going to be so awry that it's going to be so much harder to fix. Not unfixable, but much more work than it would have been if you said something when you first noticed that whatever it is happening. So
Absolutely.
it's just like a designated time for us to say, yes, our relationship's going great. I'm really happy with how this month went. Or two, hey, weekly date night hasn't been working for me. Can we switch it up? Or I have this idea instead. And that's exactly how that came about for us. So I just wanted to add that, having like a designated time during the month to talk about your relationship and see where you stand from an honest perspective, and not, oh, I don't want to offend them, so I'm not going to say anything. That's your time to say something.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't build into something that's unfixable.
Yeah. And like you said, you don't want to be in a position where 5 years down the road, something's finally being addressed that bothered you way back when. And then the other person's like, why didn't you say anything? Like, if you would have just said something, it could have we could have avoided so many other issues that we've gone through in the last 5 years, because we could have nipped it right then and there and addressed it. So yeah, I think that's where you see a lot of resentment kind of creep into relationships, is because you hold on to these unspoken things that, you know, you don't want to address because you don't want to offend them. And
and it always blows up when it's something totally unrelated.
Yeah.
You're like putting gas in the car and they blow up on you, and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you?
Like, where is this
and
coming
you're like,
from?
16 years ago, you didn't say I love you before you walked out the door. And you're like, wow, that was deep.
Yeah.
So,
16 years of resentment here. Yeah.
So anyways, that was my bonus item. And now it's connection card time.
Yes.
Whose turn is it?
I think it's yours
We
this
always
time.
forget. Yes, it is mine this time. Oh my gosh. These cards are falling all over the place. All right, got one.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I think so.
What would you consider your greatest accomplishment in life so far?
Aside from getting married, because I do consider that a very good accomplishment.
Yeah, that was going to be mine.
Okay. That would be my top choice. Aside from that, I would say probably my scholarships to college.
That's a good
I worked
one.
really hard for that. So I think being able to say that I earned scholarships to play softball in college, and I finished all 4 years of college playing, like, I think that was a big accomplishment. It took a lot of work. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that was poured into it, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I had somebody, I don't remember where I heard this, tell me one time about degree, and I don't have one, but they said it's the one thing no one can ever take from you. Your spouse may leave you. You may go bankrupt. You may win the lottery. Your house may burn down. You know, your kids may die of a terrible disease. A lot of things can happen to you in life, and that's one thing that you earned that no one can take from you, no matter what. And there's only one way to get it. You have to put the time in.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really cool perspective on it.
That is really cool.
So I think it's something that, like, as someone who has kind of always been against the school system, I've never really agreed with it. Hearing that perspective was cool. And I think that's a good way of thinking about it. And I think people should be proud of that accomplishment. And I think a lot of people aren't. They just did it to check the box.
Right.
But I think some people should be more proud of it for that exact reason.
I agree. I like that.
Mine would be, I feel like, the classic ones: getting married, getting baptized, choosing to follow Jesus, like all of those things are my greatest accomplishments. Aside from that, I think there's so many ways you can go about this. Like, what's like your physical accomplishments? You know, I've always wanted to be an Ironman. I haven't got there yet, but I've done a lot of long bike rides, like 100-mile bike rides, and those are awesome. And so every time you accomplish one of those, it feels so good. So those are always fun. I don't know.
You bought this house.
Yeah, buying a house was cool. Yeah, I don't know. I think marriage is probably up there. I think it has to be.
Yeah.
I think maybe I would say like becoming someone who people know they can count on. Like
That's
if
a good one.
people, I feel like if people call me and ask me for something and I say I'm going to be there, I will be 100% of the time.
Mhm.
And maybe that's me not being super humble, but it's something I pride myself on.
Yeah.
Like your word is your character, and being able to be a reliable person and people knowing that what you say is true and honest and authentic. And if you say something, you mean it. And when you say you're going to do something, you do it, is very important to me because that's all you have
Mhm.
in life. I mean, you have your word, and then if people trust you or not.
Yeah.
And if they don't, I mean, you got a long road to repair that.
Absolutely.
I saw this thing one time. It said, trust is very easy to lose and very hard to gain.
Mhm.
So I've always liked that saying. And I think it's true.
I
So yeah, I
agree.
would just say becoming like a reliable, trustworthy person and making that part of my character, not my identity, but a large part of who I believe I am.
Absolutely. I think that's good.
Thank you.
Very solid.
Thank you. You have anything else to add?
I don't think so. I think that's it for today.
All right. Well, I guess this is a wrap on episode 6.
Do you want me to check us offline?
That's so weird. Why would you say something like that? Check us offline. That's
Oh my
so
gosh. Refer
dumb.
back to the end of episode 5 and you will understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's
There's
also
another Chris original we're referring to here. So,
yes, a Clowism. We've had some
yeah.
interesting remarks from the family regarding the Clowisms. And
We
I'm
won't
just
go
going to
into
leave
detail.
it at that.
Yeah, we don't need to go into detail
If you
about
know,
that.
you know.
Yes. Anyway.
So, anyways, that's all we got. And we'll see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.